on your album is the song Punch. And it's about working a 9 to 5. And so many artists do that in this space. Like I talked to Kay Sade, Key Londa, Briquet Kasari, and like pretty much everyone that I've had on the show so far. And so like kind of what advice would you give to artists just navigating that, and like how do you do it?
Yeah, it's a tough balance, but I think when it comes to anything that you want, that you're super passionate about, you're gonna make time for it. I was writing on my lunch break, in the car. I would write, like if I had like some free time or downtime or whatever, like at work, I was hashing out ideas, making connections. So I think that when it comes to any dream or anything that you're trying to get out and see come to fruition, you're going to work hard at it and really make the time. And it's a tough, but like my job is very, very demanding and it requires like 100%. But I make sure that I don't take work home with me at the end of the day. Like when I come home, I leave work to work. Now, obviously, it's a lot different, but when my work shift ends, even when I work from home, it's like, all right, music. So I try to make sure I work just as hard on the music and all the pieces that need to come into play and line up as I would my 9 to 5 job, because you're definitely gonna, pull out what you put in. And I'm a firm believer in that. So it's just something that like, I'm always working. I'm always trying to find a way to make things happen. And just to encourage other artists too, like when it comes to budget, like really pray and trust the Lord. A lot of times it's just a matter of asking. You might have investors in your network that you don't even know about, like people who will be willing to contribute to your dream. And it's just a matter of asking. And I know it's humbling and it's hard to like ask people for, for money. But I think with artists, especially now when we don't really have a lot of gigs because of COVID, you have to be creative in the way that you kind of earn income from music and kind of gain like supporters. So just, to encourage artists out there, like don't let budget and not having the finances like limit you. Try to like find a way. And like for me, the job is a blessing in the sense that it is funding my music career. That check that I receive from my job, I'm using that for studio time or to pay producers or to pay singers or musicians or whatever. And it's not like, oh, I'm making just like a boatload of money, but it's like just being really resourceful. So I think, and I think there are skills that I've acquired. I'm an administrative specialist, so I have to do a lot of communication and coordination. Those skills come in handy so much when it comes to music, because I have to organize rehearsals between like maybe 7 different people. You know what I mean? I have to teach songs a lot of times. I have to meet with musicians. I have to make sure I get them all the information that they need and disseminate that. So I think, and God calls us to work. Some people are blessed to do music full time, but for like God calls us to work. If a man doesn't work, you don't eat. And I think that there's a beauty in work. There's a godliness in work that we often underestimate. And it helps develop discipline and endurance and a type of strength. And a lot of times, like if you're disgruntled on your job, like I was for many years, it will really motivate you to go hard for your dreams, because you're like, oh, I'm going to make this happen because I really want to see this come to pass. So I think putting that like into perspective, that, it might not be like this always, that I'll be in this position where I have to work and do music on the side, but I want to do everything I can to put my full self into the music and make sure it's what I want it to be.
Yeah, I want to say really quick, I love that you said like to ask, like, I don't know, that just really stood out to me. Like asking people, like asking God.
Like when I was younger, my aunt and like a lot of people, they was mostly my aunt, used to be like, the worst thing they can say is no, so just ask. But at the time, that just seemed like, I want them to say no. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, that no could lead to a yes. Like eventually, I just have to keep knocking, keep seeking, keep asking. And eventually someone will say yes and invest in that. So just about having faith. I just think about people in the world. I watch a lot of interviews of like rappers who came from nothing and now they're like household names, and they dared to dream and believe and to speak that things were going to happen, and it happened. So I'm like, if they like don't have Christ, they don't have the Holy Spirit, and they believe that strongly that it's going to happen for them, and a lot of them, their music and messaging is trash, how much more should I as a believer? Like, why am I doubting myself and my ability and God's provision in this area?
Shout out to The Fix. I watched your interview there, and and you mentioned just dealing with depression before, and putting that experience into Midnight Blues, another song from While You Were Sleeping. And so I wanted to ask you about like kind of just depression like in artistry.
Yeah. I think as an artist, for a long time, I really, really wanted to be validated. Like, I just wanted to know that my stuff was good enough. There was an internal struggle with that and an external struggle. And I think there is an aspect of artistry that will always contain those elements, because when you put music out, you do want people to gravitate towards it. You do want people to give you feedback on it. And a lot of times it's your motivation to keep going, or for some people it's a hindrance for them to kind of stop. And knowing like I have to be open to critique. I'm not above being challenged. I'm not the best artist in the world, but I'm determined to be the best at what I do, which I am the best at what I do. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has their own unique giftings that the Lord has given them. And I think the depression can come in because sometimes I had like unrealistic expectation. Either things weren't happening fast enough, I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. I was frustrated because I didn't have the money. You know, people who said they would help me along didn't. You know, a lot of broken promises and things that just didn't really pan out. And I had this like woe is me kind of attitude. And you know, the depression just really came in like, man, like when you write songs, you think it's really good. You're writing it in the comfort of your own home before you even put it out. You probably think it's just the best thing in the world. And you might put it out and you may not get the response that you're hoping for. But I think for artists, for me personally, I want to keep growing and challenging myself to try new things. Like, this is the most I've ever sang on a rap record ever. This debut album, and I'm super proud of that. I was able to use poetry and have people see those different, you know, sides of me that I didn't necessarily bring to the forefront. And I just feel like as an artist, to kind of like combat depression. I mean, it takes a lot of, I mean, for me, I was in and out of therapy for a long time. A lot of it came from childhood, you know, things that were said and that were done to me, never really feeling confident or really having affirmation in those gifts. And for me, that had to come from the Lord. And I think connecting with a community of other artists really helped, because they've been there and they can speak to those situations too, to say, hey, how you feel today may not be how you feel tomorrow. And you don't have to like linger in those feelings, because it's going to like prevent you from really doing what you love to do. So for me to really come out of that depression, like I said, it did take counseling. And some people say, Aasha, just write the song, like just write it. Even if you write something you think is trash, keep writing and keep going and keep connecting with people who can help you formulate that sound. But I think the pivotal moment for me was realizing that God has given me this gift, and with the expectation that I use it. So I need to use it, whether that's before 5 people or 5,000 people, major or minor scale. I love music so much. It's so much a part of me, and I'm so passionate about it. How could I stop doing it, you know, just because I feel like, oh, this is taking long, God, or why hasn't this happened for me yet? I think recording small victories and accomplishments, those are things I had to do. You know how people say, when I think, I thank. So just, you know, reminding myself of like, okay, small victories, you know, say I finished this song. I recorded this. I was asked to come perform here. I think just putting myself in a place and in a space where, man, just be faithful with this gift and have joy in the music. I think that's what I was robbed of in those moments of depression. Like, I need to just have joy and just doing music because I love to do it.
I love to see the variety, like the meme where it's like, does she have the range type of thing.
Oh yeah, and I think with women, the hardest part for me when I started out at CHH was what to be and how to present myself. You know, I'm not like a tomboy. I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like I don't fit into like a certain mold. Like I love to dress up. I love makeup. I love hair and all this. I don't do that on a daily basis, but when it comes to my videos, like I really love and enjoy those things. And I think for a lot of times people try to pigeonhole women in certain categories, but I think there's room for various types of artistic expression, you know, within it. Because I can do my musical pocket, but then I can do like kind of like the real hip hop side, and I think there's room for so much within hip hop, especially with women, and that people shouldn't pigeonhole women because hip hop is a culture, and within that culture there's so many different types of representation, and that's what I love the most about hip hop is that you don't have to be pigeonholed to just one specific thing because there is room for a lot of different types of expression and representation. So I'm excited to see this next season of my life musically, artistically, and where it goes.
I like how you said that because it's absolutely true that you know, just like in hip hop culture, like it should be so much more like accepted for like women to not have to like always present themselves like in one way. I feel like right now, it's just like the image is like very hyper feminine, which like it's like fine, yeah, and hypersexual as well. But like everybody's very much conforming to that, and you know, and I feel like it kind of goes back to the conversation of like there can only be one, you know. And it's funny because like the day that we met at Catalina's house, like that's something that she said in the voiceover for you know, with the young lady, going back to that. And like I feel like it kind of like stems from that, like there can only be one, and so there can only be like one like presentation of a female artist. And just kind of like those types of issues within CHH is something that I've talked to about with Hillary, Jane, and Kay. I just want to mention too, like the hashtag CHH sexism conversation from a couple years ago that kind of brought it back to the forefront and brought a lot of dialogue. How would you say that male artists can support women more in this space?
I think if there's an artist that they really enjoy and that maybe they have worked with or desire to work with, you know, reaching out to build a relationship, really getting to know them as a person just beyond music. Because a lot of times music affiliations and collaborations can be very superficial. You're just in it to get something out of someone, like a verse or a collab or a partnership or whatever, merch or whatever that might be. I think building relationships and getting to know people. I think when you think about, especially CHH as a body of believers, building relationships as brothers and sisters in Christ first, and then kind of seeing where people land when it comes to, you know, musical collaboration and stuff like that. I think that that's important. We need to get back to that. Two of my really good friends are males. They're rappers, 3 in Point Apps, and my homie C-Dub. We just build and talk about life a lot of times. It's not necessarily related to music. And I think that makes it easier for men to support women because you're getting to know them. You're getting to know their husband and family if they have, you know, family and things like that. You're getting to know them just as a person. And I think if they think about just what the CHH female rapper represents, we are so different and so opposite from what the world represents right now with female rappers. Think about your daughters and your little cousins or your sisters and what you would want them to be listening to when it comes to music, the messages that you want to influence them with, how you want to affirm and empower them in the Lord and push them closer toward the Lord. When you think about that, the Christian female rappers are that. We're representing the Lord, we're representing Christ. And I think when you think about it that way, like bigger picture scheme of things, we are, we should be handled with care and delicately, and we should be pushed out into the forefront with so much support, just because there needs to be more Christian female voices in the forefront, especially in music. Because when I go out in the world and I do shows, people have never heard of a Christian rapper, female Christian rapper. They don't know about Lecrae's and Triple E's and why they don't know. So when we go out to shows, a lot of times, especially on the local church scene, you're the first Christian rapper they've ever seen or heard. And that's amazing to them. And this is not me being arrogant or anything, but I've noticed that, like, when I go out places, like, you do what? How do you Christian rap, hip hop, or how do you do that? And you know, you're exposing them to something new that's Christian, that's godly. So I think when men think about that, when they think about the type of women they marry or want to marry, and just the messaging and the music and the influences that they want them to have, I would imagine they want them to be, you know, godly. And I just tell people, put your money where your mouth is. If you're tired of seeing and hearing trash messaging, and they support female artists, if you feel like they aren't up to par, these CHH rappers, come alongside them and offer advice, see how you can help them or support them financially, because they need it. So that would be my response to that.
Hope you enjoyed this episode with my girl Aasha Marie. Be sure to check out her debut album, While You Were Sleeping, available on all the platforms, also for purchase. Also check out her YouTube channel. She just released a really dope animated visual for the story of Inglewood. It's a must-see, especially if you're from Chicago or if you love Chicago. And her socials are right on the screen. If you enjoyed this video, leave a comment below, like this video, and consider subscribing, because I'm going to be right back next week for a new episode. You don't want to miss it. Thanks again for tuning in to the Personal Pizza Party Show. I'll see you later.
Don't look at me, look at my master. I'm looking dapper, you should see my before and after. Can you dig it? Don't look at me, look at my master. I'm looking dapper, you should see my before and after.